All right, everybody, I want to welcome into the studio Terry Wittenmeyer. He is an American author of a book called Fearing China, and I'm very honored to bring him into the studio. Terry, how are you today?
Doing great, thank you.
I want to tell everybody a little bit about how we met. You reached out to me on LinkedIn, and you mentioned me. You said, "Look, I wrote a book called Fearing China, and I want to send you a copy." You sent me a copy in the mail. I really enjoyed reading this because for me, it was amazing to see an American businessman like yourself that has a lot of experience and really was able to see China, see a lot of the stereotypes that are presented in the West, but then actually go there and you do a lot of business with China, and so I wanted to invite you on the show. Wanted to talk about your book, but also talk about your story. So why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about the business that you have?
Sure, I've got a promotional products company that I've had for about 20 years.
Okay.
So we sell mugs and caps and notebooks and pens and all those things with the company logo. So
Okay.
it's a good business here in the States. Had it 20 years. We're mainly an online seller.
Mhm.
And in 2008, decided, hey, I'm going to go to China and see maybe I can start buying direct because we buy most of it from suppliers here in the U.S. The
Okay.
product is still originally from China, but our suppliers buy it from China and store it here in the States.
Gotcha.
I thought I'll just run over to China and see what's going on over there. And so that was 2008 was my first trip. And I think like a lot of people, the first time I went over there, I had these expectations. I'm a fairly well read. I read the newspapers, I watch
Yeah.
the news, I know what's going on. So I kind of knew what was going on with China. I knew they were terribly polluted. I knew, it was corrupt. I knew the Chinese government controlled everybody. I just knew all these things.
Right.
And I think part of kind of the experience you had, I got over there and said, wait a minute, this isn't lining up with what I have been told and what I thought I knew.
Right.
And it reminds me of what Ronald Reagan, and I think a few others said, is that it's not so much that we don't know anything, it's that what we know isn't true. And so that's kind of what happened to me as I got over there. And my first trip, I was a little bit shocked. And then the second trip, the third trip, the fourth trip,
Yeah.
I started seeing things really weren't lining up from what I was being told.
Yeah.
And so I started, taking a lot of notes and started doing some research on some of the specific topics that I would hear on the news or that they'd be reporting on, or I'd read an article. And what I found is when I would really dig into the backstory, when I would get into the more details, I would find out that those headlines and the things that they were telling me just weren't accurate. They were not not only not accurate, they were almost intentionally misleading. So that's kind of my progressive trips into China. I kept learning more and more, and I was doing business with people in China, finding out, these are honest people. They're hardworking.
Yeah.
Holy smoke, they're hardworking people.
They are. No,
They work harder than I do, man.
the easiest thing that I always say is, make sure you go to China, experience it for yourself.
Absolutely.
I lived there for 10 years. I probably had 20 people come visit me in those 10 years. And every single person came with a certain set of expectations and then left with, feeling very different about China, after they had come and experienced it. And I'm really amazed at your book because you've done a tremendous amount of research, things that typically, only people that really live there for a long time kind of have this level of knowledge. I was very impressed by your book. How deep you go.
It took about 2.5 years, and I really was just digging in because there was so much I didn't know about it, and that gives you kind of a fresh start. You start diving into the reports and all the NGO reports about background and poverty and pollution and corruption index and all these different things. And so, it's as you pointed out, it's almost a research document. It's got a lot of charts and numbers and graphs and references to UN reports and WTO reports and things like that. And it's a real attempt to give a true quantifiable measurement, when we're trying to evaluate China and what they're doing in different areas. It's only fair to as best we can